the learn Python by analyzing COVID-19. This one, I'll put the link in the chat window. Okay, the runtime error, I thought I corrected that. So I put in the chat window code. Interesting. Go click on Microsoft Edge on this computer. Actually, really don't want to do that. How do we copy paste in chat? Oh, copy. Okay, I see. Opening Colab. Oh, okay. I commented out. They should. I forgot to clean up the runtime. Okay, so, this is a very long exercise. I often go several days, but since this is REU and many of you are extremely smart students, at least based on the GPA, so yeah. I'm going to go very quickly and also only focus on a small part of it. So you can actually see on the, see, let me also clean up some of my desktop. There's too many things on my desktop. So. Okay, so in the Colab, you see that on the table of content, there's this triangle. You can actually minimize. Those are chapters. You can minimize them, and there are also so sub chapters. There, you see the. Wow, I can't believe I actually wrote 8 chapters for this. So the first chapter is just give you an overview, and then the second chapter is about some data handling using pandas. Oh wait, I didn't give the name of the chapter. So the first part 1 is actually the second one. Sorry, I probably should improve my naming. So the part 1 is actually a second section, but part 1 is about pandas, data handling. Part 2 is actually about plotting data, what they call data wrangling, pre-processing, explorative analysis. Part 3 is to visualize a specific location for Hamilton County, Tennessee. And part 4 is actually overlay Google mobility with COVID-19 cases. This is actually handling heterogeneous input data and merge them by some, in this case, I think I use the location and the date to merge the 2 heterogeneous data. And we put them both into pandas data frame first. Part 5, we do some group by, and because the input data is county, but sometimes we want to do the statewide analysis. We merge all the state by state, all the counties by state. And part 6 is about the confirmed base data. Part 7 is global data. An alternative. I think I will just go. My goal is to go over part 4. That's it. So, and in the past we have a TA, and this time, although we do have some PhD student or graduate student here, I'm going to see how whether ChatGPT can help us explain the code, or even can improve or optimize the code. When I wrote the code, sometimes, well, at least that's when it works, I don't want to spend more time to optimize it. As long as it works, I move on to the next step. What I have found that the ChatGPT actually can look at the whole code and streamline it, optimize it. So we can also try that. Yeah. So by the way, it looked like in previous years we actually have a tutorial video.
Before we were using Monday.com, our team was drowning. Our days used to split between work and.
Okay, so there.
Yeah, this tutorial.
Don't know when I had this video. Oh, gee, that's actually 2 years ago. So I do have a tutorial video there. So it also go over step by step of the Python code have here. It also look like that is the Colab version. So that version is actually 2 years ago. I have made a lot of changes actually into the code, but the main idea is still there. So the good thing about the running Colab and GitHub, I clean up that code. I can save a copy in GitHub, and then I can comment on it in this way. Filling up the Google Drive loading errors. It's a bit slow, but it's convenient. Okay. Now it actually goes back to my GitHub, and then I comment on this. If I go back to my, it actually automatically goes back to my GitHub. So there, now it's updated. I clean up that the runtime error. In fact, if I go back to the GitHub code, I just committed that one. Right? So that's my most clean up the Google Drive loading errors. So there. So it's making this is very easy to track the changes, especially when I work on the cloud environment and you want to have a persistent copy somewhere. So GitHub is convenient in this way. There are many other reasons why GitHub is useful, especially for team project coordination. It was started by the Linux. Right? The Linux has thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of people working on a project. And how do you coordinate all those thousands of people want to correct the code, correct the error? And this is why it's called Git. It's a whole different story why it's called Git. You can ask ChatGPT why it's called Git and see what it come up. You can work on your own for that, but we can put that in what you found out. So there. So how do we? So in this case, I'm going to use Python Colab to analyze some COVID-19 data. And obviously, this started in. I studied it first in 2020. I first studied it locally in Python. And then I realized if I want to give a tutorial, everybody had to install Python on their computer. And that's very often not practical. So I moved to Colab. That way, if you have a phone, you can actually work on can work on it. So about 2021, I moved it to Colab. Actually, when did I start this Python Colab? The first commit I don't remember. Yeah, I try to see when I started this repository. Yeah, 2020 something. Yeah, 2020 September seems to be like the first commit. Yeah, so initial commit, September 10, 2020. Yeah. So before that, I was all local. So how do we get the COVID-19 data? That's actually go another GitHub repository. That's the, oh, this one is already archived because it's not updated. Archived on March 10, 2023. So I guess officially COVID is over. So there's no updating on this one anymore. But you can also see the data started about 3 years ago. And the updating stopped at about March 10. That's okay. And that's actually explained when you do a time series analysis, some of the data points start. So there's always curation issues. So, and that's the data we will get from. And there's COVID-19 data. There's also daily report. There are time series. Which one do we use? I think we pick the time series. Yeah. Time series COVID-19 confirmed case US. We could analyze the deaths as well. So, and then we just okay. I just realized I don't have to explain this. Let's put this into ChatGPT, see what the ChatGPT can own code. Yeah, so then I don't have to comment this code myself. So yeah, that seems to be a perfect use of ChatGPT. So, but it still runs. Oh, PD is not defined. Why the PD is not defined? Did I remove something? Oh, I didn't run the previous code. Sorry. Import pandas and PD. So that has to be defined and then I run it. Okay, there's an error. Oh, some of the pandas had a warning error. Future. Future only. This actually is the future only. This bad line argument is apparently this doesn't look like the pandas error itself. It looks like it's the dependency call pandas use. This is always an issue for open source software. When many things change, there's a lot of depend. So I made this comment. So this is basically checking the data frame. But if I commit it back into, maybe I shouldn't. Let's commit it back. I commit it back into the GitHub. I can say add comments on part one using ChatGPT. Actually, give credit to ChatGPT for adding this comment. So, yay. This is probably my first official commit, acknowledge ChatGPT into my own code. So if I go back to my code again, yes, it's added there. So yeah, yeah, you can actually see the comment added there. So when the GitHub committed, it removes things of highlighted in red. When it's added, the things highlighted in green. So if I click on my code now, yeah, it has a comment there now, yeah, including the future warning of that. Oh, I see why there's a bad line there. If I comment that the bad line out, that's probably okay though. My previous code didn't add the error bad line equal false, but that's where the warning come out. That's fine. Let's leave it there. So here's a part 2 data frame. So the part 2 basically, this is basically exploratory analysis to use pandas to so-called manipulate the data, explore the data. This is all very basic. If you are already, I know some of you already know how to use this. So, if you already know, maybe you can come here and explain. I know, sorry, that's a joke. I will still stay here and explain. But you can take a nap. Feel free to take a nap. So, okay. Okay, I don't see my full screen for some reason. Sorry, I won't be able to see the full screen because that's a sliding window. I forgot about that. So you can see the COVID-19 data stopped at March 9, 2023. Yeah, I guess at a certain point, the White House declared the COVID-19 pandemic is over, so people stopped working on this. And also partly because many states have stopped updating the data as well. If there's no raw data coming in, there's no point to update the database anymore. So at a certain point, this will become a historical data. And I guess when you become a research scientist or engineer, at a certain point, those will become a historical data you use compared with the future epidemic study. You can see in old days when people still do this odd things. In future, people all travel differently. I don't know, by unmanned taxi. Maybe the travel pattern, disease spread pattern will be different. It's quite interesting. Without the modern transportation, in the ancient days, the disease transmission must be quite different. If you think about, there are about more than 200 coronaviruses in human. That means every one of them is a SARS-CoV-2 outbreak hundreds, thousands, millions years ago. But they didn't, those hundreds of coronaviruses didn't cause so much drastic effect because thousands of years ago, people still live locally. So they may wipe out the village or town, but the world actually still okay. But nowadays, because of the global travel, this is actually spread much faster. Okay, so this is actually, if you really analyze it, there's a lot of things. It's more than data itself, which means the socially, economically, culturally, temporally. There's a lot of factors to consider. So if we analyze the Black Plague in Europe and then analyze COVID-19 in 2020, there's many factors are different. So on the screen, that really doesn't really hard to see, but so just look at the Zoom shared screen. So it looks like I'm going to use, what's the difference between DF1, DF2? I don't remember. Oh, it's just two different ways to read it. The first one is the the second one is the global, sorry. The second one is the global, the first one is the US. So we are going to use the DF1 to analyze the US time series, and those are by counties. So how many counties in the US? We actually can ask ChatGPT about this too. How many counties in the USA? 3,143. That's what the ChatGPT says. Well, our data frame has 3,242 rows. So that means we have extra 200 something. There's a reason why it's in. So
Yes, I think this Google says 3143, but if the 10 county equivalent in the US territories are counted, 3243.
That's not the reason. If you analyze the data, you will see why it's different. This is also including a territory. So, in fact, including more than that. Yeah. So, but it's a good guess though. It's in the right direction, but it's not the. In fact, I often use that as a prompt to ask us. Actually, how about this? Instead of I explained, why don't you all look at the Johns Hopkins data set to see why there are 3,342 rows as counties in the COVID data set when ChatGPT says there's only 3,100 something. Why don't we look at the data itself? In a very naive way, you don't have to use Python. You can look at the data manually. I mean, it's just a spreadsheet, right? You can look at those counties and see why it's different. Of course, you can also write a Python code, use pandas to find that out. In the past, I actually had the multiple choice question. I must still have it somewhere, but I forgot where I put it. So in the past, I actually have multiple choice question, let the student to pick. It's easy for me to grade it that way. So there's a reason why the COVID-19 data set has 3,242 rows as counted. Those are not real counted, but unfortunately in data science, when you process the data, you have 3,100 counted, but those are not counted. You still have to put on the row. It's confusing, look like the counted, but it is not. But there's a reason why they are there. So why don't I let you spend some time to find it out? In fact, if you really scroll down, you will see at a certain point, actually, I say the reason. Actually, I put my answer already in the note, in the comment. So if you really read my comment, you'll see the answer there. So, yeah. But I'm going to let you to find out. Yeah. How about I give you 5 minutes? There's actually another trick. I'm not going to tell you. It's much easier to do it to find out. But it's so obvious right there. So you got there's another trick you can do. Can quickly find out what's wrong there, not the reason behind it. So. I'm going to let you think about 2 minutes and then tell you a good trick to do that. Actually use it so often nowadays. So 11:10, I will see your progress. This is 11:08. And those people are, oh, there's something for the chat.
Dr. Flynn, with what is the Excel file name?
What's the Excel file name? Rhea, the URL. Well, this is much more strict, professor. No, this is much more professional, professor. Sorry. They are also unassigned. Yeah, some people also found out unassigned. Yeah, there are also 3 cruises. I forgot what their names. Actually, what are the cruises that have COVID-19 in 2020 in USA initially? Yeah, Diamond Princess, Grand Princess. Oh, only 2 of them? I thought that's 3. Okay, maybe just 2. Yeah, Diamond Princess and the Grand Princess. That should be in a row. Instead of counties, actually list of the Diamond Princess and Grand Princess. At a certain point, some federal presidents also listed there. But later on during the COVID, apparently that dispute is resolved, and those are counted in certain state. I forgot. Those are removed. So. Okay, so and this is some interesting part of our data analysis. So I guess the main lesson there is really the data is data. There's how to interpret the data. There's a lot of other factors come with it. Culturally, politically, technically, right? There's a lot of issues when we analyze this data. Oh, there's also District of Columbia, which is not a state, but technically kind of state, but not really a state. Yeah, Diamond Princess is right. Actually, because of the alphabetical order, Diamond Princess and District of Columbia actually ordered right next to each other. So, province, state, unique, those are there. So. I'm not, I still don't know what those RSO 23 code 3 FIPS means, admin tool, but province and state seem to be quite intuitive. So, and then latitude, longitude, you also see the longitude had an underscore, but the latitude does not. Apparently, this is the bug nobody want to fix. I mean, as long as you know that part of the column name really doesn't matter. So this has been someone's when someone pass out the code from some GIS data, there's the underscore here. Someone forgot to remove, and it just stuck there for. Gee, More than 3 years. Actually, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 years now. People don't even care to remove it. So yeah, it's fine. As long as you know there's the extra underscore there, the data can be analyzed, I guess. My guess is because the people build a lot of dashboard on this. If they remove that underscore, there will be so much extra work for the downstream engineering, and so people just leave it there. So because initially even New York Times or CDC use this to build dashboard. So if the underlying data frame, the name change, that's cause a lot of trouble. They just leave that bug there. So it's actually not really a bug. As long as you know the name has actual line, the code will still run. So okay, so I didn't start recording, did I? Oh, I started recording. I did start. So, and there are various ways, basic pandas usage, like index using iLog. This is the one I use very often because it always works, iLog. But if you use a naming, sometimes you forgot the name, or you may have a typo in the name. So for example, here, DF latitude, if I type DF latitude with the underscore, then it doesn't run. Right, so now it runs. Right. So if I type the name, is you have to really remember that name. But if I use a number, very often the number, you have to remember which number of columns to use on that. But usually, at least you'll get something out of it. So so those are really not much intellectual depth into this. Those are all very basic usage. In many cases, just pandas syntax. And the funny thing about pandas is also written by Wes McKinley, one person. So that one person's the preference or habit dictates how pandas package is written. So many of the pandas, the naming convention is all decided by one person. So Wes McKinney. As I said, his taste must be very good because pandas is a very popular package. So even though a single person made a lot of decisions, but apparently many of the decisions seem to be a good one. So, but not always. For example, this one I really don't like. Max chaining. They found out what's the larger the cases in the data set. Yeah. 3,710,000. What's the total population size in the US? This must be a terribly under-reporting. I saw the US population, 300 million people who got COVID, probably is more than 30% or 40% now. So that must be a terrible under-reporting for the COVID. So, is that 3 million? Yeah, that is 3.7 million. But that just cannot be correct. So, oh, good point. That's in the county. That's right. Thank you. I forgot about that. Yeah. Thank you. That's right. Yeah, that's a 3. Oh, that's still a lot. Yeah, 3.7 million in the county. That's still a lot. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so, or maybe not the end of county. Yeah. So sorry. Thanks for correcting that. Yeah. So, oh, by the way, why I have to use the 11 column? So let's see what ChatGPT explained. Comment the code. Comment the following code using pandas. There's an error. Sometimes you have to refresh ChatGPT. It log me out at least every now and then. Comment the following code pandas. Yeah, very nice. I will just copy paste the code and put it back. So, yeah. Yeah, it's very nice. I mean, save me a lot of time to try to explain. So, yeah. So it basically from 11th column afterwards, and then apply the max function nested twice to each column, and then the maximum. Found out basically. So first apply it to each column, and then apply to find the maximum value across all columns. So that first max by column, then max by basically all the list, in order to find a maximum value in the entire spreadsheet. By the way, which county, can you spend some time to find out which county or which row in the data sheet has this largest number, and which county does it correspond to? Actually, I do have this question. Find out which row has the largest value. Some of you probably live in that place. Actually. Oh, someone say what? The question is which row in the data sheet had the largest number of cases? You can actually ask ChatGPT. Let's ask ChatGPT. In the how to find out which row has the largest value from column 11 and beyond. This is ChatGPT's answer. Let me see whether it works or not. Did we call it GF1? DF1? Yes, we did call it DF1. I mean, this is my answer. We use a great sign. This is Los Angeles, but let's see the ChatGPT answer, whether it also come out with Los Angeles. Oops. So this is ChatGPT answer. Let's see whether it come out with the. UID A4000673. Oh, exactly the same. It is. ChatGPT gave the correct answer. So, but I would say my answer seems to be more elegant. So, but this is I just use the grade and I'm subsetting find it. So, but ChatGPT does give the correct answer. So, ChatGPT, yeah, it is useful. Yeah. All the question I ask is the data frame as okay, I can revise my question to ask and print out the state and preference. Okay, let me revise my question. Revise the above code to print out the values of admin2 and preference of EF1 for the largest value. Okay, let's see whether you can revise the code to print out those directly. Let's see the code. I'm going to put my prompt also there. That way I remember what prompt I use. Wow, correct. That is correct. Yeah. Los Angeles, California, you print out directly. So it is useful. So, but of course, I know I asked specifically what column, what data frame. I gave you some necessary information, but with those information, it does give the correct answer. Yeah. So yeah, admin2 is Los Angeles, province state is California. So. I wouldn't say this is if this is exam, maybe it's questionable whether you are using it. But if this is for research, this is a perfect use, at least in my view, to accelerate my research. Right? So if you are working on a project, you need to get something done. This is a perfect way to use it. This is almost like using calculator. In the old days, when I was a kid, I learned how to use abacus. I actually learned to do that when I was a kid. But who had to use that now, right? You just use calculator, right? Yeah. So this is basically an advanced version of a calculator for coding or other purposes. So I'm very sure if you work on this, for many of you, you can also work on a solution, but you may spend 10 or 15 minutes. But with ChatGPT, I would say less than a minute or probably even 15 seconds something. So there, it is really helpful. What is really helpful is about the syntax. Because the Python pandas, different packages often have different syntax. And it is really hard for humans to keep track of that. There is one thing very annoying. MATLAB, R, Python, Java, they often use different syntax for function, list, start, end. Python is end exclusive, Java is end inclusive. R use the smooth parentheses for vector. Python use the square bracket. It's very confusing once you start this coding exercise, but ChatGPT can help you elevate some of those confusions. So, but you have to tell it, this is Python code you are writing, and this is R code you are writing. So, yeah, so this is, I found it very helpful, especially, there's another thing, I had to work with so many students. I have to deal with Python, R, MATLAB, C++, sometimes several times in a day. But this ChatGPT really help me keep track of those things. So I don't have to really memorize many syntax. It's still helpful for me to remember some of it, but I don't have to strictly follow them. as long as I know the main idea. So, okay. So this seems to be a very good example of using ChatGPT to figure out some details. So, okay. But that said, you can see for this entire project, if I just give the data set ask ChatGPT to do, it's still going to have trouble to do that. So for a student like you, you may first concern, is this going to take my computer science job or data analysis job? It's not, because the whole idea, the ChatGPT still cannot do it. So you give the data set, ask ChatGPT, what's in the data set, why some columns are missing, some columns are extra. Those things, at least currently, AI still cannot do that. Right. So those things, basically high-level critical thinking, comprehensive with consideration across many factors. That's part ChatGPT still cannot do it. All AI still, in general, still cannot do it. So, but at the technical level, syntax, write a for loop, extrapolate some value, those very technical things ChatGPT can do extremely well. So I have some plot, but let's ask this question. So in my Python code, I plotted the Los Angeles data. Let's ask ChatGPT to do that, see whether it can do it without so it knows the I need to. Here's the tricky part. It has not converted the data yet, but let's see whether it can do it or not. See whether it can learn how to do it. So right now, all the data are there as a text. I didn't ask, hold on. Have I converted all the data into, no, it's still a text. All the dates are text. We haven't converted the dates into actual data, the data type. Let's see what the ChatGPT. So let me explain that. In DF1, columns 11 and beyond are dates that contain value for COVID-19 confirmed cases. Write collab Python code to plot the row that contains the largest cases in as shown in the above code. Okay, I'm not sure whether this works or not. Let's see. I basically redo the largest value again, and then trying to plot it out. Okay, let's see whether it works or not. In my cases, I found out that the row. Oh, wait. Plot. I found out a row. I take out the. Oh, I actually take out the row specifically, and then plot it out. ChatGPT apparently just redo the whole thing. Oh, in my case, I actually did convert that into I convert the transpose, then plot it. Okay, let's see whether how ChatGPT does this. Does it work? Oops, sorry. I'm going to keep record of my prompt so I know whether it works or not. And then copy paste out the code. Wow. Is it exactly the same? Yeah, it worked. It actually plotted exactly the same plot. Gee, it actually also put the date. In my case, I didn't label the. Oh, actually, I would think my plot is more cleaner. But this is also correct. It does exactly the same plot. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this one, I just exactly the same plot. Of course, if you just use ChatGPT, you are not sure of it. It's good to rewrite the code to make sure it's correct. In my case, I already read the code and then ChatGPT gave me exactly the same result. So I know it did correctly. Yeah, this is, of course, become an issue. If you overly depend on, yes, question? Someone online trying to say something. Okay, yeah. I did hear someone else also mention that. So if you use ChatGPT, how do you know it's correct or not? That's really an issue. So in this case, I write the code, run the result, and then compare my result with ChatGPT. But if you don't have that code already written, how do you trust the ChatGPT? Basically, you want to rewrite in different ways to look at it. So I mean, nowadays, if you have calculator, you do it once. Are you calculated correctly or not? In many cases, when I use the calculator, sometimes I forgot the parentheses. Sometimes I input the number in the wrong order. The number may come out different. Or if I push the say decimal point, I didn't really push it. Sometimes many of the error come from that. But in this case, if you really don't know the correct answer, you need to do a lot of quality check. But still, it's quite impressive. Or maybe not, because I gave a very specific. I asked it to say column 11 and beyond. I gave it a specific name. Maybe I even tell it it's a time series. I gave it all, at least I think, necessary information for it to complete the task correctly. But still, it's impressive. So, given this is really just a machine. Yeah. And those are the code I wrote a while ago. And this on the top, that's ChatGPT. So. Okay, so I'm going to save that in the GitHub. And this is also a part I really like, Colab GitHub, because it integrated very well. This especially amazing. Consider GitHub is Google, and GitHub is Microsoft, Colab is Google. So they are actually rivalries. So ChatGPT example for LA largest value plot. Okay, so I actually give a comment, say, I can make this commit because I ChatGPT example for largest value for a row commit. So this is, I can also, when you are working on your own project, this is also a good way to keep track of it. So if you make further change, it doesn't work, you can actually go back to this point. This time it still works. And then you make further change, it doesn't work. You have what's our fallback position. So on the if I look at my GitHub, yeah, so I now have 112 commits. That's my fallback position. So, and if someone actually write the malicious code, if you work on in a company, someone put a malicious code in your system, you need to constantly keep track of it, have a fallback position, which is the safest part to fall back to. Actually, one of our hospital nearby, Memorial, and they recently had a ransomware hijack. It's actually October 2020, because at that time I went to their clinic. They cannot use their computer. Every nurse physician is taking notes on a piece of paper. And later on, they will have to, when the system somehow figure out how to restart, they will convert this note back into the computer again. So, yeah. So, although the GitHub only for the code, the entire computer system, they must have a fallback position, a backup system to do that. So this is one I heard many students when they use GitHub, they say, I'm not comfortable with the code. When I know how to work, I will commit it. That's often, I hear that very often from students. That's just a wrong way to use GitHub. The way to use GitHub is to help you to figure out how to do things. It's not when you figure out how to do things, then you back out to GitHub. That's just a wrong philosophy to use GitHub. So, okay, that's not just my view. The whole point to use GitHub to help you the debugging. That's the philosophy of GitHub. So, okay, there are some other things that I think I'm going to check whether the food is there. Oh, there are some other things like add a meaningful index into data frame. In this case, I already did the transpose. Reset index. Yeah, I transposed and then added the column. So the initial COVID-19 data, they come in with dates as column. That's not a typical way human analyze data. When we analyze this Excel spreadsheet, if you remember, all the data are organized by column. Each county is a column. For some reason, the COVID-19 data, when they come in, each county is a row. So when you convert into spreadsheets, that's not a typical way spreadsheet handle the data. So the way I handle it, I do a transpose. For those from the math major or math minor, you know the transpose is in a matrix. You reverse rows into column into rows. Basically, that's the same thing here. And we transpose, and then now every county is a column. Every row is what? A date. That's actually much easier to analyze. So, so in this, when you do that, you will have when we do the plot, it's also easier. So, so this is the original data frame where every county is a row. After we transpose, every row is a date. Every county is a column. That's, yeah, I'm not sure why the original COVID-19 data organized by row. There must be a reason why they choose it. But anyhow, once they choose to do that, they have to stay with it, become a legacy, and all the further package development have to use that. So it is still there. But Pandas Excel spreadsheet typically handle data by column. So this is not much here, it's just further data analysis. Yeah. There are many unassigned cases. So once we do that by county as a column name, you will realize yeah, they are unassigned, many unassigned counties. I still don't know the diamond process. How do they count those? But that's it, because those numbers are now very small, so it doesn't affect all the cases anymore. Because there's really a lot of unassigned cases. So I'm going to stop here, and probably for lunchtime. Let me check whether the lunch is there.